Oh, yes.
This is Calvin Castine, and we're going to be coming on the camera in front of you in a moment. We just wanted to take a little shot. Unfortunately, most of it is blocked out, but there's a lot of snow up there on Mount Washington on this April 21st, 2001, and we're going to show you where we are in just a moment. All right, Calvin Castine in front of the camera now. We have Judy Castine behind the camera. I told her we were going on vacation and didn't tell her we were going to put her to work. And I'm doing this part here a little out of sequence because we haven't shot part one of what we're doing here. So I don't know how much we've already covered. So if I'm going over ground that we've already covered, you'll have to bear with me here. I'm here in Glen, New Hampshire, but I'm in. Judy and I are at North Conway, New Hampshire for Woodmen of the World Convention. And whenever I go out anywhere, I always get my handy-dandy AAA tourist guide to see what else we can take in while we're out there. And I started to notice the similarities between the White Mountains of New Hampshire and the Adirondack region of New York that most of you watching are from. And I noticed not too far from here, they've got Six Gun City, and of course, for very many years, we had Frontier Town. Santa's Village is nearby in Jefferson, and that's where Six Gun City is located. And of course, we've had North Pole, New York, for over 50 years. And they've got railroad trips, scenic railroads, and of course, Lake Placid, Saranac Lake region are now starting to get into there. And the focus of our story thus far has been on Arto Monaco and his land of make-believe. And I came across a place called Storyland, and I knew from what I knew about Arto Monaco that the original name that he had in mind for Land of Make-Believe was Storyland. So this piqued my interest. I got on the internet and learned a little bit more, and I gave a call to the facility here and talked to Jim Miller, and here we are. And to tell us all about Storyland, and even before that, Storytown, is the man who is are you unofficial or official historian, Jack Mahaney?
I would say I'm unofficial,
Unofficial.
Historian. I've been here for many, many years. Started here as a young fellow in 1967. Our first trip here was 1955. And Storytown opened here in 1954 as Storytown. About the middle of the season, 1954, Bob Marl got a call from a fellow out in Lake George, New York, that had already opened Storytown.
What are you doing? Huh?
And what are you doing? And of course, that's history out there. That became the Great Escape, and then I guess Six Flags owns it now. And so Bob packed up the Chrysler Town and Country wagon with all his Storytown souvenirs. And probably sold them for about a half cent on a dollar out there.
And now they'd be worth.
Yes, in 1955, he opened his Storyland. So, and the rest is history. There were some early times were pretty good, and then there were some bad times. And Bob was he was a wonderful man, and his philosophy was to provide wonderful family experiences. In not an overwhelming atmosphere for the little people, and staff it with courteous hosts and hostesses, and be able to eat off the floor if necessary. Cleanliness was right after safety. So, and we've continued that for years. And when I came on in '67, he became my mentor and taught me a lot about life as well as this business. And I like to think that how I conduct myself today is what Bob Marl did for me. He was my other dad, kind of, so to speak.
Okay, and the Storyland, of course, has a important part in your history for another reason. I was told by Jim Miller that you met the bride right here at Storyland. I don't know if Judy can get a shot of that photo on the wall without getting a glare.
Yeah, so my wife Mary started work here in 1968, and I relieved the pumpkin coachman for lunch one day. When we had real horses here, which was a treat for me, and I drove up to the castle and let the kids out to see Cinderella, and Cinderella came out and in her Cinderella dress, and I really like Cinderella, and we've been married for 31 years. So it took a while to get Cinderella to kind of like Prince Charming, but but I was persistent, and it's it did happen here. We met here, and I think we were the first Storyland wedding. and probably the longest. We weren't the last, but we were the longest running so far, I think.
Oh, so some have come and gone.
There have been others, yes. Yeah.
Didn't quite last
Yeah,
long.
that's right. And Bob always said, he gathered everyone around on opening day, and he said, you're going to meet a lot of people here and have a lot of different summer relationships, but just remember, Storyland relationships, they won't last. They just won't last.
It's all make-believe,
It's
right?
all make-believe. So, well, we proved that wrong. So, and my wife Mary is back here working again as well. Not a Cinderella.
No.
But and she figures another 10 years she'll be the old woman in the shoe. But right
Going
now
full gamut.
right now she's in the cash operations office, and we're both having a great time back here and bringing our grandchildren here now. So
Now, you said you came here in 55, so you probably weren't too old at 55.
I was 5 years old in 1955. Yeah.
And so you've seen
So-
it as a child then.
Yeah, I've seen it as a child. I rode on the first ride, which was Freddie the fire truck, and I had a lot of influence in restoring the fire truck, which ran from 54 to 61, and then was retired into our fire station. And arguably, more people have been on that truck than any other fire truck in the world. That's a whole other story in itself. It became a plate truck, and the fellow that restored it, and he restores fire trucks for a living. 1956 or 7, he rode on that fire truck, and he blamed Storyland for his addiction to fire trucks, and he ended up restoring it. We got it back on property last summer, and we're going to probably display it for our 50th anniversary, which is coming up real quick.
2004.
Yeah.
Now, we have to point out the similarities here, and again, I don't know what we've covered and what we haven't covered. Arto Monaco got this vision of the land of make-believe, and he'd worked on North Pole, New York for the Rice family, creating that. Of course, Arto had been to Hollywood, and I'm sure we've covered that already. And in spring of 1954, he opened up what he was going to call Storyland, but because of Storytown and the proximity of the two attractions, he didn't want to have a name that close to it, that closely located. So he came up with the name Land of Make-Believe. So in spring of 54, he opened up. In June of 54, Storytown opened up here, and because of the Storytown in Lake George, it changed its name to Storyland. So it's almost like a parallel universe.
It is. It's amazing, and I don't really know as much about Arto Monaco as probably I should know. I was introduced to him when I was 21 years old, and at that time I really didn't believe that I would ever have a career here. But Bob Morrell suggested that our honeymoon trip be over there, and we did have a good time and enjoyed the facility. And over the years, Bob and Arto would talk, and now Stoney and Arto talk quite a bit. Recently, there was an auction over there and selling some of the original rides that was in Storytown, I believe, and there was a couple of items that Arto was interested in, and Stoney looked at them. I don't know what became of that, but the original goose ride over there at Storytown went back to Storytown. They decided they wanted it, and we thought it fit perfect for here, but it didn't happen. So we backed away from that one. But Arto was a big influence here. He and Bob were very good friends, talked a lot, and I think a lot of what you see out here has an Arto Monaco influence, and maybe some of the things that Arto did over there had a Bob Morrell influence. Yeah. They were very, very close working together.
Yes, and I would, without slighting Bob Morrow here, right from the start, I think Arto, because of his Hollywood experience and so on, was a little more artistic. I look at the first, I was talking with Jim about the old lady in the shoe. It was kind of a box thing.
Yes, it was.
But now it's developed.
It developed.
The Humpty Dumpty is now three-dimensional.
That's
and,
correct. And that, no question, Arto had an influence on that. The new Humpty came on in the 60s, and the new shoe was created in 1969. So we went slow in the beginning and picked up, but still keep the same idea of the park. The original area is still here.
And from what I've gathered, I'm not going to say what place it was, but a couple of years ago I went to a place in Orlando, and I was just amazed at how many places, every time you turn the corner, they're trying to sell you something, and you're probably not doing that so much here, right?
We don't do that. We absolutely do not do that. We try to keep the food prices as reasonable as possible. Nobody's on the pathway selling you balloons or anything like that, and you don't have to go in the gift shops. And I think, and we get a lot of comments about that every year, that they just can't believe that, they pay the one price to get in, and after that, if they don't want to spend a dime, they don't have to.
Yeah, because you're very vulnerable to these little kids.
There's no question about it.
They want everything they see.
First-hand experience at that, and I understand that. And yes, we could certainly make a lot more money than what we do. But we're going to keep them happy and keep them coming back.
All right, can I handle this? I'm
you
afraid
can handle
to touch
that.
it here, but
No,
I'll let you take it here.
That's no problem. This
is an interesting story in itself. Now, what is the date on this plate? Any idea?
This plate was.
Turn it toward the camera.
Oh, sorry about that. This plate was created between 1957 and 1966. My guess is 1960, 61. And I say that only because there is a pumpkin coach here. The original steam train is here, which was here till 1966. So 57, 66, somewhere in between. And we're picking up memorabilia like this, things that we sold years ago that I guess we should have kept one of everything.
You think somebody would have thought of that?
Yeah,
Huh?
and this was on eBay, and this fellow had it down in Cape Cod. This one came from, but I got a 1955 brochure that came from California. So it's this,
It's amazing what people throw out and then wish.
Yes, and wish they had it back.
Yes.
So I mean, we're not going to create a $1 million campaign to get all this stuff back,
obviously.
But we'll have a little bit from here. And we kept a number of things, but it's always nice to, especially something like this. And
it would have been cheaper to keep it originally than to buy it on eBay, probably.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I shudder to think what the original price was, and I won't tell you what I paid for it. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was, compared to what it sold for in the early 60s, late 50s, it was a lot. So. Yeah. Okay,
we're going to go outside in a moment, and we've also got a video we're going to show of various periods of the place in operation. But before we do, we want to look at this big bird over here.
Well, it's a duck. Everyone thought, why do you have a duck head on a swan boat? Well, it wasn't called a swan boat. It was called the Storyland Queen, and Bob Merle decided that he should have something carved on the front of it, and he went down to his old woodworking teacher from high school and asked him if he would carve this. And he said to Bob, "Well, Bob, you learned enough in my class. You can carve that. So go ahead and do it." And he did it. So the original queen was here from, I think, 1958 or 9 through the mid to late 70s. And now we have a new swan boat, and it is a swan boat now.
Okay, so no more duck boat?
No more duck boat.
Now a swan boat.
No, and
the ugly duckling has evolved.
The ugly duckling has evolved. So, but we didn't want that to get lost, so it was delivered here.
Yeah.
I'm the keeper of these things, I guess.
Keeper of the flame, keeper of the duck.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else of historical significance that we should look at in here before we take a look outside?
Really. Not really. I think you're...
All right, we're going to pick up outside. All right, we have moved outside, and like so many of us in the area above the Mason-Dixon line, a little slow getting started this year because of all the snow. And we've got a new face that has joined us, Jim Miller. Welcome, Jim.
Thanks for asking me along.
Your position here, Jim?
I am now the marketing coordinator, the job that Jack here has held for several years before me. And he's moved on to do bigger and better things here.
All right, and your history goes all the way back for three weeks here, right?
3 weeks so far, yes, plus bringing my family here for a few years.
Well, look at this. 3 weeks on the job, and he's already got a big-time TV crew in here, Jack. What do you think of that?
Well, I think he brings a lot more to the table than I ever did. That's for sure. He's accomplished more in 3 weeks than I've done in 7 years. So that's what they seem to say around here too. And I go out and about with all the fellas and young ladies. That's what they say. They don't miss me at all. So I'm stuck in the office, buried in paper.
Oh my goodness!
And probably will be for many, many years.
Well, during the summer, I'm sure you'll be able to sneak outside once in a while.
I will get outside from time to time.
Now, I got to tell you, that's a little strange architecture here in New Hampshire.
Well, this is the house that Jack built. You wouldn't want Jack to build you a house.
What is your name again, sir?
My name is Jack. Actually, this building reminds me of Victor Borger playing the piano. It's much difficult to play the piano the way he did, and it's much than do it right. And everything is crooked. And Bob was well, he wanted to use local craftsmen. He liked to keep his money right here in the area, and we have some wonderful talent here. And we had it back in the 50s. And to make some of these buildings the way they made them, with crooked windows and crooked walls, was really a work of art. And many of the original buildings are still here. This building right here, the entrance building, parts of it were here in 1955. 54 was a different entrance building that was moved over and is now part of a food area. You would never know that building was in there, but it is. And Bob never threw anything away. We always used it.
Well, except the plates.
And yes.
They didn't throw those away. You sold them all.
Sold them, yes. Sold them to build different things inside. Exactly. So that's the story in the Crooked House. It's got a little bigger over the years.
This is the entrance.
This is the entrance. Yeah, from one entrance, one exit to 9 entrances now.
You have 9 entrances?
Yes.
Okay, 9 different doors in the same area.
Yeah, and well, we have the capability of 9. There's 7 that you see, but we can open 2 more if necessary.
Okay, I won't ask. I'll just take your word for it.
Yeah, take my word for it.
Okay, and
behind this one door is 3 entrances, so that's
okay.
If it looks it looks like there's not as many as I say, there really is.
Yeah, but this is really where the fun starts, right here at the Crooked House.
Okay, now, for people who might decide they want to come up here, and I'm sure that's what you guys are hoping. It doesn't matter to me because I'm just doing a story here. Give us some directions from north-south, Jim.
North-south is pretty easy. It's Route 16 north. All you have to do is to get down to Route 16, and you can get on that off of Interstate 95, anywhere that runs through the eastern U.S., up north-south, eastern U.S. So there's an exit right on 95, looking on 16 north.
Okay, and we came in on 302.
That's a good east-west route, is 302. There are not a lot of good New England east-west routes. 302 and Route 2 are 2 of the best, and they both intersect with Route 16.
And 302 picks up off, I think it was I-93, I think it came off of that.
Yep, I-93, I-89 as well, and 91, I think, as well.
So there's several ways to get here, but this is an out-of-the-way place. What's the population of, we're in Glen, New Hampshire, and North Conway, neither one's particularly overpopulated, are they?
No, not at all. They're just perfectly populated. Glen is a part of Bartlett, and Bartlett has just a few thousand residents.
And you wouldn't think that there's that few people when you look at all the businesses and all the houses and so on, but it's a lot like the Lake George area in that respect, in that a lot of businesses, a lot of summer, but it's more year-round. Seasonal here with the outlet stores?
Well, it's not seasonal. It is year-round. We have a very large winter season with all the ski areas that surround us here. We have a very large fall season with all the foliage that you see here in the White Mountains, and certainly the summer is the busiest time. And as we say here in the White Mountains, summer started here.
Hasn't started yet.
Not this year.
Now those, North Conway, I guess, has become the capital for in the Northeast for outlet malls. That wasn't here when you first opened up, was it?
No, definitely not.
There all those outlets.
It was mainly ski, and Storyland, I guess, was the beginning of what evolved into a White Mountain vacation. When we ask folks to come up to visit Storyland, we want them to visit all 17 White Mountain attractions. Our association is unique that we stick together, and we want folks to visit Santa's Village, Six Gun City, Clark's Trading Post, all of them. We're not in competition with any of them.
Is there a ticket they can get to go to all of them? Or?
There is a ticket they can get to go to all of them. Yep, through the White Mountain attractions, they can buy a pass to go to everything that's up here. And,
okay. All right, can we go inside?
Yes, we can go inside.
They're not going to have their best shoes on here yet because the grass is still brown like it is up in my neck of the woods, and
there's still a lot of snow inside.
yeah.
Yes, we might need a shovel when we go
Yes,
in. But
yeah, we've been taking it out in trucks in the past week or so. Literally removing it from the park with trucks.
Talking with you guys, people probably need a shovel anyway, but in this case it's snow,
Yes,
right?
It's true.
We have moved inside the facility, not inside a building here, and Judy will have a pretty good panoramic view of this particular section. The course of a year, how many people would you expect this year to come in, Jack? Just based on past experience.
We entertain about 80,000 families a year.
80,000 families.
Families, and you can figure out how many folks are in a family, and that's as close as you're going to get to the exact amount of folks that came in here.
So, do you sell tickets by family or by individuals? Or
We sell by individual, and we don't we do count each person that comes in the door, but we don't count ages 1, 2, and 3. They're free.
Oh.
And so, actually, we don't really know exactly how many people come through the door. I know how many people come through the door ages 4 and older, but it's 80 to 85,000 families a year is a good bet.
And how does that compare with the 50s, 60s, 70s? I know most theme parks like this have probably had a decline in the...
The first year, I can't remember. I think there was a couple of thousand people that came through the first year, and it progressed rapidly till 1958, and the bottom fell out of everything in 1958. And Bob came to the realization that he couldn't expand as fast as he wanted to. So Ruth, his wife Ruth, was the business person in the family, and she pretty much dictated what was spent from then on. And he was very frugal with his dollar and expanded very slowly. And gradually, in the 60s, we had up and down, and then from the 70s on, it's been pretty much an upswing. So we're growing every year, and we hope we continue to grow. I think we have a niche, children up to 12 years old. So we don't have the teenagers in here, and
not that they're not welcome, but
they're welcome, and they have a great time. They just won't tell their friends they went to Storyland. It's usually they come in with a younger brother or sister, and they do love it. But
it ain't cool to come in.
It ain't cool. That's right. That's exactly right. But that's okay, because there's so many of the little people, and we have had people tell us that their little children like this better than that place in Orlando, because it's not as overwhelming, and they're not as worn out in a day, and they can go on our rides and see our attractions, and they don't have to wait for hours and hours on end.
Okay. Are there characters roaming around here, Jim, that people can bump into as they roam around?
there are characters throughout the park. A lot of them have their own homes here in the park, so it's usually the kids go up and see them. They go up and see Cinderella in her castle. They go up and see Heidi's grandfather. They go up and see a number of different characters all throughout the park. And a lot of the people just wandering around the park are characters themselves, so you will see a lot of characters everywhere you turn here.
I mean intentional characters there.
Yes, but yeah, most of them they'll recognize from storybooks.
Okay. Now, must be some original characters here, or the mainly characters that they know from Mother Goose and
Yes,
Aesop's Fables and
Mother
so on?
Goose has been here since day one. The old woman in the shoe, or the woman in the shoe, as we call her. we don't call her
Politically
old.
correct here,
yes. And let me see. Cinderella came on in 1957. Was the first Cinderella. Heidi's grandfather was day one. And Little Miss Muffet's Tuffet was here day one. And Little Miss Muffet was walking around, and Stoney's older sister Nancy was Mistress Mary, and she was Heidi, and she was Miss Muffet, I believe. So that was in the early days. That was before Stoney was born, in fact. And now Stoney Morrill is the owner and runs the show just as his folks did.
Okay, let's get into, as Judy pans the area here. I'm not sure how much it will be covered on the video we're going to see, but the history of the Morrills. Bob was in the World War II, got out for a little while, and called back in for the Korean War. And it sounds like, from what I've read, got him a little depressed that he thought he'd be fighting wars the rest of his life.
Yeah, he did, and he really didn't know what he wanted to do, and he had dabbled in the ice cream business here in town, and he and his wife were stationed in Germany, and an older woman came to the door. Her name was Frau Van Arps, and she was selling storybook dolls. And the discussions went on for hours, and she thought it would be a good idea if they came back to New Hampshire and opened up a little park like this, and with stories about her dolls. Well, that planted the seed for what you see here today. And all the original dolls are on site here in Storybook Corner, which is one of the gift shops. And so we have that history here. And when Bob got back to this area, he lived in North Conway. This was the only land that he could possibly afford. This was a sawmill. It was pretty much wasteland. Nobody figured you could grow anything on it or use it for anything at all. So Bob started this place with about $5,000, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Now, what I read, this Frau von whatever here was hoping that they'd buy some of her dolls. Did they end up buying more of her dolls to sell here?
Yes, they did. Not to sell here.
Oh.
They bought the collection that she had. I think there was about 25 dolls that they purchased. But I don't know by the time they actually opened Storyland whether Frau Van Arps was around or not. I don't know what happened after they left Germany, as far as any contact with her.
Okay, well, I heard it was Arto Monaco in a wig that went to their door.
It may have been.
That's just a rumor. Jim, how many acres are involved here?
Well, really, the park here itself covers about 35 acres, and you wouldn't know it to look at it right now here in mid-April, but it's a beautifully landscaped area. There's a lot of green grass, a lot of flowers that we put in every year, and it's really we have a lot of people who are older come in and wander the park just to enjoy the landscape and the flowers and that sort of thing. And that's a big part of what this is all about. It is still a park in a lot of ways, and it's a lot of play areas, but all told right now it's about 35 acres.
And so it's all visible when you're wandering around? There's no secluded areas that aren't being used at the moment?
Well, there are some other parcels here of the property that are not fully developed just yet. So, yeah, there's a little more to it than what you see here.
In a given day, you said 85,000 families. In a given day, how many people are apt to come through that door not on the 4th of July, but, let's say the 12th of August?
12th of August, Jack. How many people would you get on the 12th of August here?
How many families would come through on 12th of August?
Do you have it?
Somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 people would come through here on the 12th of August. Yeah. If it was raining, it would be a lot less. Yes.
Yeah, the 11th is a whole
Yeah.
different story.
12th of August, 3,000 to 5,000.
Right.
So you have a good flow, and it seems to be that people like not to be cramped, but they like to see other people there.
That's correct.
If you have a crowd,
Yep.
then it makes the experience that much better, I think.
Yeah, we've tried to create areas that spread people out. That's one of the goals. And the play areas that we have done an especially good job. And our newest area, which is Professor Bigglestep's Loopy Laboratory, which used to be a dock ride. It was called Voyage of the Moon. And we have a play area in there and a show as well. And that'll occupy, I'll keep 1,000 people busy for an hour anyway. So we like to spread them out, don't like to see long lines, and for the most part, I think we succeed.
So you don't have to wait half an hour to go on a ride if you're going on a ride. In most cases, I'm sure not.
Possibly on the 12th of August, yes. but for the most part, no.
You can be entertained and keep
Yes,
flowing.
that's correct.
That's a great thing here. And I first came here as a father with 2 young children, and the place is always busy, but never overcrowded, it seems. There's always some place where you can go and be the first one in line.
And that's important. If you got a place that caters to these little, they don't have much patience sometimes.
No,
they want to run and
Yep.
and look at the next thing that's coming along.
Right.
Now, like Land of Make Believe, many, if not all, of your facilities are geared towards
Towards the
little people.
Yes.
So they're not geared for the 6-foot person to go in there and
Not
run
at all.
around. It's
Not at all. They can.
child
the
size.
6-foot person can get in there. I can tell you that. But it's cramped quarters. Very much so. But they are, a lot of them are little buildings.
And that's what makes it experience. I think
Yes.
many of us have had the experience of going back to a classroom that we may have been in as a child and seeing how much it shrank. I can remember at St. Mary's where I went to school, and I was working on our annual bazaar, and I'm in this room that we use for storing our stuffed animals, and it suddenly dawned on me that this was my second grade. I said, wait a minute. That ceiling was, was 30 feet high, and the teacher sat 40 feet up in the front, and I couldn't believe how small it was, but it finally dawned on me where I was, that was my second grade. And the same thing here. I'm sure when the kids come back, if they haven't been here for a few years, it's a different experience for them.
There's no question about it. Yeah.
And it still feels comfortable. That's the thing about it. It's a comfortable size for kids. And, you know, if it was geared to the adults and the teenagers, you know, the roller coaster would be taller and longer and faster and go upside down and that sort of thing. But it's built for the kids, 3 to 12.
Okay, you should point out, you got a roller coaster, and what I saw on the film, on the video, it moves at a good clip, but it's not so much that's going to scare the daylights out of a 3 or 4-year-old. You do have a height.
My 5-year-old loves it. It's just right for her. It's one of her favorites. She loves the water rides and she loves the polar coaster.
Now, do you have a lot of those, if you're this tall, signs on this around here?
We have a lot of those this tall signs, but for the most part, there's at least 10 rides here that everybody can go on out of the 16. And the only two is the roller coaster and Dr. Geyser's remarkable raft ride. A child must be 36 inches in height to go. Those are really the only two that they can't go on.
Okay, so you've got the 36-inch. Do you have any that say you can't be any taller than this to go on?
No.
That's up to your own discretion there.
That's right.
How you want to feel when you come out. Yes.
How foolish you want to feel.
Right.
Right. Okay, let's just take a little tour here. Down here, this is part of the facility here.
That's correct. That's the firehouse building you see in the distance, and beyond that, the railroad station. Those are two of the not original. Well, the firehouse is the original building. The railroad station was 3 or 4 years into the park when that was built, and this complex here. Before that, gift shop down below, and the corporate offices up top, which is not very elaborate.
The very plush corporate offices.
Yes, plush corporate offices. We just got running water 2 years ago, and we're very happy about that. And this empty slab here was the original foundation for the firehouse, but this is the start of a new area, which will be completed next year. There'll be a new firehouse building built there, and we're going to theme it as a water play area. All our water areas here are themed to cool off, not get soaked.
Okay. Jim, would it be safe to say that the construction equipment and the snowbanks will not be here in May?
That is definitely safe to say that, yes. When we open Memorial Day, you won't see any of this. You might see a little bit of snow in a dark corner here or there, but you know, I don't think there's any problem with that. But
now, you do have that very short season, though. Tell us your season.
Well, the season runs really from Memorial Day weekend through Columbus Day weekend. And the daily operation is starting really the weekend of Father's Day right on through Labor Day. And it's weekends only before that and after that. So it is a short season. It's a short, busy, full season. And, you know, that's when the kids and their parents are available to come out and visit us. So that's what it runs.
And like many businesses up in the northeast corner, you're at the mercy of the weather. You have a cold summer, a rainy summer, it can really hurt you.
It can hurt us somewhat. I think we're fortunate in that, you know, people when they're on vacation, they only have so many days to vacation anyway, and if this is part of their plan, even if it's raining, it's a good time here. You know, what we like to say, you know, if there's a 70% chance of rain, that means 30% chance of fun, and 30% chance of sun, and 70% chance of smaller crowds, and 100% chance of fun still. So, you know, the crowds will still come out, and the people will still come out and visit us. So, the weather does have some effect on us, but for the most part, people still like to come out.
Yeah, and most people who are coming here aren't doing it at the spur of the moment. They've already made plans, and once they get here, there's places to go inside if they get a downpour, right, Jack?
Yes, there is. Yeah. Yep, there's the newest play area is all undercover. That was one of the designs of that, and we have a huge food pavilion out back that houses 400 people, so they can duck in there for a few minutes. And
400 people, how many families?
Depends on how many people in a family, I think. But we have 3 trains operating all the time, and they're covered. We have an African safari ride, and that's covered. So Cinderella's pumpkin coach is covered. The carousel is covered. So
ponchos in the gift shop are less than $3 here. Is that
that's right, $1.75.
So if you're going to get soaked.
So we don't soak you.
Okay. Well, no puns here. I'll take care of the puns, all right? What's this clock here? What's that?
That clock.
You didn't know that? You look surprised. You didn't know that?
We actually have 2 of those clocks, and I believe they came out of the city of Boston.
Really?
Yes. I don't know exactly what area they were in, but they were a bargain, and I don't know who tipped off Bob that they were available, but he jumped all over it, and we've got 2 of these functional clocks on site. They're a lot prettier in the summertime. Flowers wind up the base, and there are a couple of panels that slide in there that aren't there right now.
And
so,
electricity will be turned on, and it'll.
Oh yes,
it'll
yep.
have to be keeping time.
There's no electricity to it right now.
Now, whose castle is that in the back?
That is a. I will call it a wayside rest area. It was modeled after a chapel in Bavaria that Bob and Ruth saw. We have the original picture of it somewhere, and it's just below Heidi's grandfather's house, and it's a place where folks can just take a time out from their busy day, no matter what their religion, and rest. Go in, get their thoughts together, and head on out into the hustle and bustle.
Okay. Is there another vista we could go to that would give us a view of some things we haven't seen?
I think the best thing to do is start taking an actual walking tour, and we'll stop along the way from time to time.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do that. Now we have to keep pointing out to people that they're not ready for prime time at the moment here. They're just getting rid of the snow. They haven't come out here and painted and planted the flowers and all those things that will make this look attractive. So we appreciate you taking us behind the scenes, so to speak, here. And this is the old lady in the shoe. Originally, when I saw the old photos, it was very, not as much like a shoe. It was kind of a box type of thing.
It was very boxy.
Yep.
Yep, and we did have lacings for the shoe, but the lacings were the old fire hose off the fire truck.
But remember, that was the style in the day, the boxy shoe.
That's true. Good, Jim. That's
Sure. I'll remember that. And what's this there with the little tree, the big stump here?
This is the treehouse, animated treehouse play area. 1995, we brought this in. It was all created in-house. We have a wonderful animation department, and we created this right here on site. We created it inside one of our workshops and had to take half the building out in order to get it down here. But in the summertime, there's birds and butterflies and many animated components to this tree that are activated by the children. And it's actually, if we look around the front, you'd see grandfather, because it's actually grandfather's tree. Grandfather is around the front, and he talks and tells the kids about his tree, and they go in it and up top and play in it, use the slides, and this could tie up a young child for a couple of hours.
Now, we've just gone through a hard winter, and when you come in here and see something like the size of this branch that's on the ground here next to an exhibit like this, it must make your heart stop a little bit to think of what it might have landed on that could have caused some real damage.
Yeah, you're right, and that's a concern in the summertime. And unfortunately, you'll see a number of our pine trees are not here anymore, and we have to. That's one of the constant things that we have to watch safety-wise is what we trim, and because we do get some pretty violent thunderstorms here, and we've been fortunate. So we take care of safety, and sometimes the foliage suffers a little bit, but trees grow back.
Yeah, so, and better to. And of course, what we're talking about here is not the safety, but the fact that it could have done some damage.
It could have done some damage, and we have had damage to buildings with tree limbs coming down. But We just get on it and repair them.
Okay, and you've got, you said this brown building with the yellow roof here is one of the original?
Yes, it is. That's the Three Bears house, and Goldilocks is probably in there now.
having some porridge, probably?
Probably eating porridge, yep.
I know Goldilocks,
Yeah,
that's what she's doing.
the porridge is in there, and
Do the kids get to eat porridge?
no, they don't, unless they bring their own.
Jim, I want these kids to be able to have some porridge in the future here. Could you work on that?
We'll take a look at it. We'll take a poll. We're constantly asking our guests what they like, and when porridge comes up, it'll be on the menu.
Okay. Okay, we can't possibly stop and show you everything that we're seeing along the way, but this did stand out in my sight for a couple of reasons, and of course the first one is that it is what it is. But in Plattsburgh, New York, in the 60s, we had a big orange ball called the Orange Julep that sold fast food and drinks and stuff, and this place reminded me a lot of it, but of course it's not an orange, it's a pumpkin. And tell us about it.
Well, this is Peter Pumpkin Eater's house. We did have a much smaller version of it for many years, and with more visitors, we needed to do a turn of the century, as in 2001 pumpkin. And last year, I believe last spring, this pumpkin was created right in our magic shop, as we call it, and it was brought in by crane and lifted 150 feet over the tops of the trees right on to where it's sitting right now. It weighs about 4,500 pounds, and it was quite a sight flying through the air. And
Amazing what those big cranes, those birds can do. Huh?
yes, they do.
They,
And
they
we use
deliver
them.
babies, and they
Yes, they do.
deliver pumpkins.
Cranes do it all, don't they?
So how heavy?
4,500 pounds.
Wow. And this came in and it came right down.
They just put it in a sling and dropped it in place.
And remember, that's just the shell. It has been cleaned out.
That's
That's
right.
correct. There was no seeds inside.
That's because that Peter Pumpkin Eater has been here. That's why. All right, we're looking at some of the original buildings, and looks like a castle entrance. But you're telling me something, Jack, on the way down. I think is important to people with youngsters is restroom facilities. You've got interesting situation here.
Yeah, yes, we do. We have the boys' side, the girls' side, and then we have in the middle what we call a family restroom. So mom can take a little boy to that particular restroom, and dad can take a little girl to that restroom as well. And on the side of all our restrooms, we have what we call a mama's house, and that's quiet time for mom and the little baby, feeding, naps, bottles, you name it. And it's been very well received.
So if you're coming here and you've got the older kids that would enjoy this, and I use older very cautiously
Yes.
here, but and you've got the younger infants that aren't going to be enraptured by all this, but you can still go there and take care of their needs.
That's exactly right. And it seems though, for every 6-year-old, there's a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old brother or sister. They're making our guests every day.
Yeah, that's right.
Something in the water, I guess.
Now, what about these dog houses here, Joe?
Well, these dog houses, and that's exactly what folks thought in 1954 when Bob Morrow was building these at his house in North Conway. They stopped and wanted to buy some of these fancy dog houses. But this one we're looking at straight ahead is the home of Baa Black Sheep, and just off to the left of that is Goosey Gander, and in the distance to the right is Billy Goat's Gruff, and then to the left, the 3 little pigs. And those houses did pretty well this winter, looks like.
Yeah.
The,
A little bit of a straw house there.
yeah, and far left around the corner there is Peter Rabbit's house. And they're all on site, starting in the beginning of the season.
Now, probably more so now than when you and I were kids, youngsters have to be introduced to some of these characters.
That's correct. They really do. These stories are the same, but I don't think all children get these stories like maybe I did or you did.
Right.
And
we got Ninja Turtles in the between there.
that's correct. But it seems that mums and dads make sure that the children are familiar with these stories before they bring them here. So it's very interesting the correspondence we get before families come here. So I think most kids know when they get here what they're going to see.
They cram before they come.
Yes, they do. They study hard.
Well, it gives them a good excuse to get out there and read some classics to the kids that they ought to be getting anyway, instead of some of the stuff they
Absolutely.
are getting. This castle entrance, what's this?
Castle entrance, built in 1956, opened in 57, and that's the gateway to Cinderella's castle. And pumpkin coach ride, have a carousel, Storyland Queen, there's a pirate ship ride, and individual swan boat rides, all in that area.
Okay, off in the distance, a little, just to give you an idea of the scope of this park, you can do some walking. You're not going to just come and walk around a small area, as they've told us. It's about 35 acres. That's Cinderella's castle, Jack?
Cinderella's castle off in the distance. Yep, and in the foreground here, although it doesn't look like a pumpkin because it's covered up, is Cinderella's pumpkin coach.
Okay, and the horses are at the front.
And the horses are at the front, yep, barely visible.
Now, does that Cinderella's castle have special meaning for you?
Well, yes, I guess it does. I met my wife up there. Yes.
Prince Charming and
Yeah,
all.
yeah. As we said earlier, my wife was Cinderella the day I drove the coach up there, and got to look at it for the first time. And 31 years later, we're still together.
Now, this was not the same coach that you drove up, though.
It is not the same coach. No, the one I drove had real horses hooked to the front of it, and that was a wonderful thing here for many years. But we just got we grew very big, and the horses just couldn't handle the load of people.
Well, it's tough when you got a bunch of people. Horses are nice, but sometimes they have a mind of their own.
That's,
you got a bunch of little kids running or suddenly decide to dart out in front of them.
Yes. Well, when Bob started this in 1954, I don't think the word liability was in the English language, but it certainly is in there now. So that's one of the reasons that horses are not here.
Okay. Are there any live animals on the site?
Oh, yes. We have Baba Black Sheep and Mary's Lambs up at the schoolhouse. And Goosey Gander is in here, Peter Rabbit, the Three Little Pigs, Billy Goat's Gruff. Heidi's grandfather keeps goats up on the hill, and I think that's the extent of the live animals.
So like the Three Little Pigs, instead of having animated or costumed, it's real pigs.
They are real pigs, yes. And candidly, I'll tell you that the Three Little Pigs have to be changed about 3 times each year because we feed them very well, and they're not little pigs.
They become 3 big pigs.
That's right. So about 3 times in the summer, we change the 3 Little Pigs.
But don't tell anybody out there.
I won't do that.
Okay. Okay, Judy's behind the camera again, and we've come to the original ride, the only ride back in '54, right?
54, this was the only ride. Freddie the Fire Truck. This was originally belonged to the Hillsborough, New Hampshire Fire Department.
I thought it looked familiar.
Yeah, there you go. They bought it brand new, and they sold it to Bob Marl in 1954, and he drove it from Hillsborough right up here to Glen. And we used to drive it out through the old logging roads, and with a whole bunch of kids in the back. And it was retired in 1961, and in 1997 it headed up to Hope, Maine, and has undergone a complete restoration to its original, absolutely original condition, the way it was in 1923. And all the paint schemes are exactly the way it came out of the factory, except for the Storyland on the hood.
Yeah.
But other than that, what you see is, and of course the name Freddie across the front.
Uh-huh.
But
So the lanterns are what you would see, that
the
style?
lanterns, yep, the siren. There was a spotlight, which is not here yet. This is a 99.5% restoration. We're waiting for a spotlight, and I think that's the only thing we're waiting for.
Can you ring that bell for us?
I can ring it. I'd rather wind up the siren.
Well, if you twist my arm, I'll let you wind the siren here.
The bell really isn't that exciting.
Well, speak for yourself. I like it's just clang it while you're. All right, now what do you do with it now?
Well, right now it's probably going to hang out here for a couple of years till our 50th anniversary, and by that time we're going to have a brand new firehouse. It's going to be inside behind glass, and we will take it to certain parades. And
How do you keep the people off from it now?
well, it's not in the park during the summer right now. It spent the summer last year. Get back here in July, and we headed up to the maintenance shop, and that's where it's headed in probably a week or so. and we'll shine it up and put a cover on it. And I guess it's Jim's job to exploit this fire truck to his best of his ability in the next few years. So I think it'll be very well received out on the street when people see it.
And make for local parades or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that because from 54 to 61 it carried children every day, and from 61 to 97 children played on it all day long. It sat in the firehouse, and they could pretend that they were driving down the street, and arguably more people have been on this fire truck than any fire truck in the world. I don't think anyone can dispute that.
At least more families.
That's correct. Families. That's the key word here, is families.
Okay, very nice, and it's unfortunate but understandable that you just can't have the kids climbing all over it anymore if you're going to preserve it and keep it looking good. You just to see
correct.
it is a pleasure.
We did most of the stuff is polished the way it was in 1923. The one thing that we didn't polish were the hand grab rails around the side. There's one on each side, and they're all pitted for many hands over the years, grabbing on and jumping up into the seat. And I think that's adds a little personality to it. So.
And of course, it's got the crank in the front.
Yeah, that's right. It does have an electric starter, but it starts just as well with the crank. I, in fact, have used it.
You've broken your wrist once or twice.
Well, this particular system is a spring-loaded system that you can't break your hand on this one.
Okay.
Model A Ford, yes, you can, but not a 23 Maxim.
Okay. So if you got a 23 Maximum out there, and I'm going to worry about breaking your hand.
That's right.
It must be tough to find tires for it and so on, huh?
Oh, you can buy tires. All you have to do is have money.
I can't buy tires then.
The Coker Tire Company is an antique tire manufacturer, and they have every size tire for everything. And however, these particular tires were so good that they were put on, I think, in 1955, and
Wow.
we didn't change them.
Wow.
So when it was restored, they were taken off and new tubes put in them. But those tires are pretty old.
Yeah. Older than Jim.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, let's pick up somewhere else.
Alrighty.
Okay, we're about to wrap this segment up, and Judy's going to have to do a 360 here in order to see everything that we can see from this point. We just come through a Mexican village and several other things, and
now we're out by the great balloon chase here, the balloon ride, and in the distance we have the turtle twirl, which you really can't see, and underneath the bags, and there's a yellow submarine underneath that other brown bag, and there is a sandcastle maze that you can see, and
just a little maze that adult could probably see over the top.
No question about it. Yes, we don't want to get anyone lost in there, but this is what we call Oceans of Fun spray ground. And around that submarine is coral and water sprays out of there, and it's an interactive submarine. And there's a little TV screen in there so the folks can see outside, and they can aim their little sprayers around to somebody on the outside that's unsuspecting, and they'll get a little bit of wet.
People wouldn't actually do that, though, would they?
Oh, yes, they would.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Maybe New Hampshire people, but where I'm from, we don't do that.
But off in the distance, the African Safari Ride, our food fair, Friends Around the World food fair in World Pavilion seating area, 400 people eat there every day, at least that. And over here is Professor Bigglestep's Loopy Laboratory. It's an interactive play area with 10,000 foam balls that are vacuumed and propelled in and about the area, two-story, and there's also a live show on the other half of that. That when they get done playing with all those foam balls, they'll see how the professor uses those to go to the moon.
Oh, that is moon rocket there. That's silver.
That is the moon rocket. Yep, and the professor attempts to launch his rocket every day in the summertime off to the moon.
What happens if he is successful one of these days?
Well, then we're going to have to close this building, but I don't think he'll ever be successful. No, he's a junkologist, and he built most everything from what he had around the yard.
I see.
And it's actually a barn silo he's trying to
Have
propel.
you seen that thing there, Judy? Take a look at that rocket ship there. She doesn't like turning the camera there. She's very hard to get good help, you know.
Yeah, he gets dizzy.
Especially when she's on vacation and I'm tying up. So that is propelled into air every day, except it never gets off the ground.
That's correct. That's correct. The illusion is that it does.
And Jim, this is the roller coaster here?
That is the polar coaster.
Polar coaster, excuse me.
Our walruses will take you around on that very fast. A lot of twists and turns. The kids love it, and it's just enough for most moms and dads to have fun and say, all right, I've been on a roller coaster again.
I've had fun too. There are things swimming in your little pond here? You have ducks and geese and stuff?
Oh, yeah, we'll have ducks that'll spend their summer here with us, yes, definitely.
Okay, and Jack's at the age where he's got grandchildren, but you've got a couple of little ones. What do they think about you working at a place like this?
This has made them very happy. I've been here just a few weeks. The park isn't open, and they've been in to see me several days already. So they're glad just to be here, just as I am, and they're really looking forward to a summer here.
So you said your daughter's 5.
I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son, and this is one of their favorite places in the world.
If Daddy could have a dream job, this would be it, right?
And I have a wife as well, and this is one of her favorite places in the world. And she's been coming here since she was about 3 years old. And she would come here even before we had our own kids. Any neighbors, nieces, nephews, any reason to come here, she was at Storyland.
Grab an excuse to get up here, huh?
That's right.
And Jack, how many kids do you have?
I have 2 boys and 4 grandchildren. So they're here all the time. Yeah, yes, they are.
Just because they like you, right?
Yeah, just because they like me.
They like you more in the summer than they do in the winter?
Yes, they do. A lot more. But it's great for me to see grandchildren the way I saw my children enjoy this place. And that's what's happening. It's generation after generation coming back here.
And in your case, as a child yourself?
As a child myself, right, 5 years old. 1955 was the first time I was here. So it's been a long ride. It's been a good one.
Okay. Now we've got a couple of videos we're going to look at. You want to tell us about those, Jim?
Well, yeah, we have some video that shows you how the park is when it's actually up and running, when the snow is gone and melted, and much like we'll look as soon as we get to Memorial Day weekend for the most part. And there's also some video clips of Bob and Ruth Morrill telling some of the stories of the park in the early years, and their son Stoney, who's the president of the park now and runs it day to day.
Now, Jack, that second video that Jim just mentioned, that's about 89, 90, so that's a lot of stuff that's on there isn't accurate anymore, is that correct?
Yes, not everything. I would say this building behind us, Professor Bigglesep's Loopy Laboratory, was the Voyage to the Moon ride, and that has been changed, and that's probably the only thing.
We had that scary ride too that you said.
Well,
that was the
that
moon
is
trip.
the moon ride.
That was the moon ride.
That is the moon ride. There's been a couple of areas added since then. Oceans of Fun has been added. Around the corner that we haven't seen is Bamboo Shoots, our log flume ride. That was added. And brand new the year of that video was Dr. Geiser's Remarkable Raft Ride. So that was brand new then. And
just remembering all these names is a full-time job, Jim.
Yes, it is. Yes.
I'm just getting Jack's down right now.
Okay, now I imagine you take a lot to heart. I think when I've read what Arto Monaco had to say, when I read what Bob Morrow had to say, listen to the kids. They can tell you what should be here.
That's exactly right. We listen to our guests, and we create it for them.
So some things are here, then they leave if it doesn't work out, and other things come in.
That is correct. We really listen to them, and we try to create what they want, and we just hope they like what we really enjoy creating. Because this is it's a fun place to be. It's a dream job. Everyone here, I think, feels the same way. This just doesn't get any better than this.
All right, especially when the sun starts peeking out.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, for those of you viewing who are from my neck of the woods, which is just about everybody that's going to be seeing this, it took us about 4 hours to get here. It's about 200 miles from the Champlain when we cross the bridge in Vermont. Depending on how many slow-moving vehicles you get behind on those winding Vermont roads is going to impact the amount of time you're going to get here. But once you get here, it's the shopping outlet headquarters of the Northeast. It's you say there's 17 different
Different attractions here throughout the White Mountains. Yes, we're just one of 17 great places to come and visit with your family.
and you have an internet site, so if people need information, they can check that out.
That's right, www.storylandnh.com.
You learned that one.
I
Yes,
did.
you That's the first one you learned?
Yes, it is.
That's the first thing you have to learn. Anything else, gentlemen, before we go to the videos?
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for visiting. Come back when there's no snow left.
Okay.